Good evening and happy Sunday from Connecticut. Hope you're all doing well with the COVID-19 quarantine. We are all trying to make it through, so just hang in there. So, to get started, this is my presentation for my senior seminar class here at Post University, my last class before graduation. So, to all of the other seniors here at Post University, congratulations, we did it, class of 2020 quarantined. So the topic that I have picked for this presentation, our 12-page paper, is issues within the foster care system. And I picked this topic because it hits home with me. My sister and her husband were not able to biologically have their own children, so they decided to start the lengthy process to become foster parents. And they did. They went through this crazy long process and ended up taking on a set of 13-month-old twins. And the children were placed with them, and they had gotten a little bit of their background that both of the children were abused and neglected by biological parents as well as their first foster parents. The little girl had her legs broken twice. Neither the little girl or the little boy were speaking at the age of 13 months. So, with therapy and working with caseworkers and getting the right treatment for the children were happy and healthy within just a few months and started walking and talking. And years later, now the children have been adopted after a crazy long process through the court system, but they are thriving the way typical 6-year-olds should be. So, a little history about the foster care system. So, most of us think of foster care as a temporary placement, and that isn't always the case. We have, on average, 429,000 children in the United States that are in foster care. We do not have enough homes. We cannot keep up with the high demand of the children being pulled from their homes to place them in safe foster homes. So if the children don't get placed in a foster home, they get placed in a group home. And unfortunately, these children in group homes don't know how to build relationships and bond and function in the real world because they're in a group home. For these children, they may be taken away from their parents because of the parents' inability to take care of them. Abuse, neglect, malnourishment, as well as drugs. This is sad, but a lot of children do not get reunited with their biological parents and they are put up for adoption. However, there are some stories where children are reunited with their biological parents or a biological family member after going through the process of parenting classes and making sure that they have a suitable home for the child as well as therapy for the adult and the child. These are all important steps to being reunited or for a child to actually transition properly into a foster care home or a forever home. So also, these children in foster care, they are at a higher risk of trauma. And the reason for that is because they usually see things that most children shouldn't see. So with the trauma that they face, it's harder for them to function, to move on, to not see what they've seen. So for these children, the trauma, they may have flashbacks and they may have uncontrolled emotions, and they may have trouble connecting with people. So they may not be able to connect with other children, or they may not be able to connect with their foster parents or their teachers or whoever's in their life. And this can actually affect them, down the road as they become adults. They may not know how to connect with their own children or their spouse, or how to make friends, even with their employer. So this is all something that needs to be addressed as early as possible. With that being said, having the issues addressed has become a problem. Sorry, I'm reading off a paper. So there has been a report that has found that there are nationwide shortages to preventative services, foster care placement, group home placement, reunification, crisis and respite services, educational services, and transitional services, which means that these services have been cut. We don't have many of these services. We have 429,000 children who are in foster care and not enough services to provide to them. President Trump decided when he had done his budget that he was going to cut 21% of the funding towards mental health. And you say 21%, what's 21%? But 21% is a lot when you have a huge number of children in foster care who need these services, who depend on these services. The foster parents depend on the services, and even the biological parents who are trying to get their children back home are depending on these services. These services may be, night classes for the parents to get a GED so they can get a job. It may actually be, educational classes, life classes for the children who have aged out of the foster care system. Parenting classes for parents who are trying to get their children back. These are services that our president has cut. And, I'm not talking politics. I'm just stating the obvious that these services have been cut, and, something needs to be done so that we can protect our children. Actually, there is a case that you guys are all probably familiar with. There is a documentation on Netflix, the Gabriel Fernandez trials. So actually, part of the funding being cut, now, grant you, this was before Trump was president, but with services being cut and having little, services provided, this child was reunited with his mother and her boyfriend in a home that wasn't suitable for him. The caseworkers hid evidence. They would show up at the house and the child wouldn't be there, and the mother would say, "Oh, he's out playing with friends." And little did the caseworker know that he was actually there, but he was just locked in a cabinet being fed cat litter. The child's teacher would call and make reports, as well as his family members, and nothing was done because there were no services there. The caseworkers just didn't have enough time or hours to put in to his case. So his case slipped through the ropes, and because of that, Gabriel was abused. He was malnourished. He had teeth knocked out of his mouth with a baseball bat. He had BB gun wounds in his skin. He had his hair pulled out. They found the cat litter in his stomach during his autopsy. And this poor boy had, blood. He was covered in blood. He died from his injuries that his mother and the boyfriend caused because, social workers just didn't do enough to make sure that he was protected. And we can't let this happen. We can't let children slip through the cracks. We can't let cases slip through the cracks. A week after Gabriel's case, there was another little boy in the same apartment complex who was found dead, and he was also in the system. He was also beaten to death. So this is serious. Something needs to be done. We need to make sure that cuts stop to the mental health, that we get more foster care for these children, that these children are placed in safe homes, that caseworkers, that we have enough caseworkers to go out and check on these children constantly to make sure that they are doing okay, to follow up on reports that have been given to them instead of, pushed under the rug. We can't do that with these children. So I'm going to leave my presentation at that. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Bye, guys.